Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing the 6th special and the technically 5th episode of Pokemon Chronicles, if you count Pokemon Legend of the Thunder as 3 parts, Cerulean Blues. The episode begins with it focusing on Misty. Yes, that's right. Just like Brock had a Pokemon Chronicles special they get dedicated to him, Misty was going to have one dedicated to her as well. And it picks up right as her final scene in Johto ended, with her riding to Cerulean City on her bike to take over as the Cerulean gym leader, since her sisters were going on a world tour. Of course, she still had all of her Pokemon with her, including Togepi, who was riding in the bike's basket. Misty eventually arrived in Cerulean City, and although she planned on stopping by a restaurant to get something to eat first, since she had rode for such a long time on her bike, she immediately had her attention stolen by a whole bunch of people gathering around a TV screen. The screen was huge and placed in the middle of the city, and it featured a news report, with a news reporter standing outside a Pokemon gym. And the reporter talks about 2 inspectors of the Pokemon Inspection Agency, or PIA for short, were starting to close down Pokemon gyms if the places did not meet safety expectations, as well as standard expectations to be determined official gyms as opposed to unofficial ones. 2 agents from the agency then joined the reporter on screen, with one introducing themselves as Agent Fedora, and they explained that they had just closed down their 4th gym in less than a month, which was the gym they were currently standing in front of, and explains that they would not hold back and take down any gym that they didn't think was up to par, and proceeded to bring up the Cerulean gym. Everyone in the crowd began to freak out, claiming that they had heard rumors that the agency was going to go shut down the Cerulean gym, as the 2 agents then explained that since the gym appeared to be empty right now, and there seemed to be no gym leader, then it would be closed if no one returned to the gym soon. Misty began to panic that the Cerulean gym truly would close, as she thought of a terrifying nightmare of the Cerulean gym being shut down with a whole bunch of big red X's being stamped all across the gym. Not wanting this to become a reality, she stopped thinking of getting food and immediately biked fast toward the gym. Unfortunately, still thinking about the worst, as she literally thought of the agents destroying the gym and all of the paintings of water Pokemon, such as Lapras, Starmie, Horsey, and Dugong, that were on the gym, using cannons to do so, and paintballs to ruin the paintings. As she rides toward the gym, she is then spotted by none other than Kim, Kai, and Kale, the fighting Pokemon brothers from the last Johto episode, or at least the one before Ash went on the boat. When the 3 brothers saw her, they immediately appeared from the alleyway that they were hiding in, and recognized Misty, remembering how they met her back in Viridian City, and were instructed to try and capture her, being ordered by Team Rocket, also remembering how Team Rocket betrayed them. They also, of course, remember Misty defeating them with Ash and Brock's help after Team Rocket had betrayed them, so with that, the 3 brothers chose to try and get revenge on Misty. Yeah, that's right. Characters who we thought were completely last-minute additions and pointless actually get to appear in another episode, when most characters only get to appear like once and that's it. Wow. Misty then arrived just outside the gym as she saw the huge dugong on the gym, not an actual dugong obviously, like a sign, and she then entered the gym with Togepi walking beside her as she claimed that it was good to be home, and threw up her arms in joy, calling out to see if anyone else happened to be in the gym. No one answered her directly, but she then began to hear some voices shouting, and determined that the noise was coming from behind the doors that led into the main area of the gym, not the waiting room area that she was currently in. As Misty began making her way inside there, we then saw what was going on inside the main area of the gym, with a Gyarados moving around fast in the pool, extremely angry. The shouting happened to be coming from 4 boys and a Nurse Joy, who were watching the Gyarados swim around angrily, scared that it was going to try and eat them or some shit. Why were Nurse Joy and the 4 boys in the gym if they were scared, you may ask? Well, hopefully we'll find out soon. Anyways, the Gyarados then makes a huge angry splash, and this causes one of the boys to fall into the pool. The dude obviously freaks out, so he begins swimming away from the Gyarados as fast as he can, as the angry Gyarados continues to chase him. The Gyarados gets even angrier as it does so, almost fucking killing the dude, as Misty then showed up, seeing this, and she immediately goes up to Nurse Joy and the rest of the boys and asks what the fuck was going on, and who the fuck they were, and why the fuck they were in the gym when it was supposed to be vacant, leading the 4 boys to state that they were fans of Misty's sisters, the Sensational Sisters, being the Cerulean City division of the Sensational Sisters fan club. Yeah, that's right, there were apparently Sensational Sisters fan club people in every goddamn city, and at least Kanto. Are you fucking serious? The 3 boys who weren't in the pool then state that Misty was almost as pretty as her older sisters. Misty didn't care about this though, and just demanded once again that they answer her question, why the fuck were they in the gym, leading them to explain that since the Sensational Sisters actually knew members of their fan club, yeah I know, surprising, the boys had actually been put in charge of the gym until Misty got back, because essentially Misty's sisters were like, it's been quite a few hours at least, Misty still hasn't come back, let's get someone to look after her in the meantime, so they requested some of their simps to look after the gym for them. Why didn't they just request their simps to look after the gym permanently while they were gone? I don't fucking know, maybe they didn't trust them the whole time, but anyways. Misty then questions once again why the fuck the Gyarados was going on a rampage, leading the boys to admit that they were doing a pretty bad job of taking care of the gym, as Gyarados has been in an endless rage ever since they had arrived, and it just wouldn't fucking stop. Adding that it had been like this for days, leading Misty to realize that she had literally been biking to Cerulean Gym for days at this point, so I guess that kind of justified why Misty's sisters called in someone to look after it for a little bit. Nurse Joy then interjects, revealing that the Cerulean sisters had apparently ordered the boys to make sure that all the water Pokemon were getting their time together in the water. So this meant that all of the other water Pokemon were currently in the pool as well. So when Gyarados was sent in the pool, it immediately started chasing off all the other water Pokemon, scaring them and forcing them beneath the water because they were so terrified. Nurse Joy and the boys state that they've tried a whole bunch of things to try and calm it down, but they've only made it angrier as a result, such as trying to pet it and shit like that, and none of that worked. However, since the brothers and Nurse Joy knew that Misty was the sister of the Sensational Sisters, because, I mean, the brothers were part of the fan club, they had to at least know of who Misty was, right? And they did state that she was almost as cute as the rest of her sisters, so that confirmed that they knew that Misty was a sister. But, anyways, they suggested that since Misty was technically a sister, she may be able to calm down the Gyarados. Misty expresses her doubts at this, claiming that she could calm down any angry water Pokemon with the exception of a Gyarados, because, as we knew by now, Misty hated Gyarados and was scared of them. Just then, Misty definitely got scared, as the Gyarados then dove underwater, creating a huge wave, which soaked everyone, dousing them in water, as the Gyarados continued to chase the boy in the water, now rising back to the surface, using its dive as a way to boost its speed, just forcing the guy who fell in the pool to pick up his speed as well. The three boys begged Misty to save their friend, with one of the boys pointing out that Misty could simply try to recall Gyarados to a Pokeball, claiming that they couldn't do it because they didn't know where the Pokeballs were in the gym. And Misty decided to go through with this, thinking it was a good idea, as she managed to find the stand where the sisters kept all their Pokeballs, and was about to go throw one, but was stopped by Nurse Joy, who expressed her doubts at the idea, stating that Gyarados would likely just swim away from the return beam, refusing to return since it was so angry and distressed. Misty decides that Nurse Joy was probably right, so she abandons the idea, and decides to try and battle Gyarados, to essentially try and snap it out of its anger, sending out her Politoed to do so, as she instructs her Politoed to go attack. However, right as Misty was sending out Politoed, Gyarados caused another huge wave, which soaked Misty, and caused Politoed's Pokeball to fly out of her hand. Politoed still came out, but the wave had managed to launch another one of Misty's Pokeballs forward as well, being Psyduck, so it got excited, thinking that it was supposed to come out, as it forcibly popped out of its Pokeball. Since its Pokeball flew over the water, that's where Psyduck landed, and Psyduck was initially happy because, it liked to be in the water, but it unfortunately couldn't swim, so it began drowning, gasping for breath as best it could. Both fortunately and unfortunately for Psyduck, it was saved from drowning by the Gyarados, but this was only because Gyarados had angrily found it and headbutted it straight out of the pool onto the pool side. And this hit also ended up hitting the boy who was inside the pool as well, knocking him onto the pool side, specifically on top of Psyduck, almost crushing it. Politoed then brings its attention to Gyarados, realizing that it was angry as fuck, as it tried to calm it down with its cheerleading claps to no avail. The boy who fell on Psyduck quickly gets back up, as all four of the boys then run off, as they were too scared of the Gyarados and knew that they couldn't deal with it anyways, so they're like, we might as well save our lives. So yeah, they were essentially giving up on their duty given to them by the Sensational Sisters, which they love so much. Fucking pussies. When the boys had made their exit, the Gyarados continued to rage, creating a huge splash again, which soaked Misty once again. The Gyarados then dives underwater again, leading Misty to realize that this must mean that Gyarados was heading for the aquarium that was on the downstairs level of the gym, as essentially the pool led directly down into the downstairs aquarium. So Misty, as well as Nurse Joy, who still remained, hurriedly ran down to the aquarium downstairs to make sure the other water Pokemon in the aquarium were not in danger. Sure enough, Misty immediately sees Gyarados still swimming angrily around all of the other Pokemon in the aquarium, who were standing still, hiding from it behind some coral in the aquarium, as they were too scared to move. However, two Pokemon faced their fears of moving when they noticed Misty, these two Pokemon being Horsey and Starmie. Specifically, Misty's old Horsey and Starmie. Yeah, that's right, from all the way back in Kanto, guys. They were still at the gym, and they were very happy to see Misty, even sacrificing their lives potentially to see her again. However, Misty saw the Gyarados heading towards them, so she called out, "Horsey, Starmie," warning them to take cover, as the Gyarados then scared them from behind, forcing them to scatter away from Misty in an attempt to hide as the Gyarados tried to chase them. This just made Misty even more motivated to stop the Gyarados now that her old Pokemon were in danger. And Nurse Joy just made Misty even more dedicated when she reminded Misty that the Cerulean Gym was in danger of being shut down, as she had heard the news report and the rumors as well, and explained that Gyarados, causing a threat to any trainers who visited there, as well as the other water Pokemon, would definitely alert the agents and make them want to shut the gym down. Misty questioned how she was supposed to get the Gyarados to obey her, leading Nurse Joy to state that Misty merely just needed to calm down the Gyarados, not even necessarily just have it obey her, just, make it more relaxed. But Misty was obviously unsure how to do this, reminding Nurse Joy that even though she was truly a Cerulean gym leader technically, and she loved almost all water Pokemon, Gyarados was an exception. She fucking hated Gyarados and was extremely scared of it, finally explaining the root cause that went back to when she was a baby. When one day she was playing on a beach as a baby, when she somehow stumbled upon a sleeping Gyarados' mouth, as the Gyarados was snoring and its nose was plugged, so it had its mouth open while it was sleeping, and Misty got trapped inside, almost being eaten. Misty then clarified that she wasn't just scared of Gyarados because it almost ate her though, but also because as the Gyarados was about to eat her in its sleep, it woke up and angrily spat her out, causing her to fall hard on the beach and cry, basically giving her trauma for life regarding Gyarados. Hearing this, Misty tries to sit down by the pool up back on the main floor of the gym to try and calm herself down, as she was joined by Nurse Joy, and together they tried to come up with another way to calm the Gyarados that didn't directly involve Misty facing her fears. But Misty soon realized that this wouldn't be possible, and declared that she was the Cerulean City gym leader now, and she shouldn't let her fear bother her, stating that she had to get over her fear if she wanted to uphold her responsibility, and make her sisters proud, keeping the gym's awesome reputation. Nurse Joy agreed with Misty, and was very happy with her decision, as she already knew that there was no other way to calm the Gyarados that didn't directly involve Misty. Meanwhile, Kim, Kai, and Kale were watching from the window of the main floor, having overheard Misty and Nurse Joy talking, since apparently the glass wasn't soundproof, and they still wanted revenge on Misty, while also wanting the power of the angry Gyarados. So they thought of a way that they could both get revenge on Misty and get their hands on this angry Gyarados, remarking that they had the perfect plan. They were going to use Misty's fear of Gyarados against her. Anyways, back with Misty, she had now put on her mermaid outfit and was standing on the diving board of the pool. Nurse Joy questioned what the fuck she was doing, leading Misty to explain that back when she was with the Cerulean Gym, she took part in one of the performances in a guest role with this same Gyarados when it was just a Magikarp, and they had a very special moment during the ballet, so she was hoping that if the Gyarados saw her in the same costume that she was in when she did the ballet, then Gyarados would remember her and calm down. So she dives into the water, hoping to be able to calm the Gyarados, also deciding to try and act friendly towards the other water Pokemon so that Gyarados could see how she was kind to them. The Gyarados simply jumped out of the water first, splashing Misty and scaring her, but Nurse Joy assured her that she would be alright, reminding her to be brave and face her fears. So Misty jumps in the pool and dives underwater as she swims around, attracting the attention of a whole bunch of water Pokemon down there, including a Shelder, Goldeen, and Seeking, as well as her Horsey, Starmie, and a Dugong, as her and all the Pokemon happily dance together. Just then, though, Gyarados approaches Misty, so Misty takes Horsey into her arms, and the two of them dance one-on-one, so that Misty could show the Gyarados how fun one-on-one dancing was, in hopes that Gyarados would remember dancing with her as a Magikarp. But Gyarados just observes the dancing for a bit, and then gets angry again, proceeding to use Whirlpool as it screeched and swam around in circles extremely fast. Gyarados then leaves its own Whirlpool, going away, leaving Misty and all the water Pokemon trapped in the Whirlpool. Although the water Pokemon would be fine, since they could breathe in the water, Misty started to drown, as she couldn't escape the Whirlpool, and obviously couldn't breathe underwater. And unfortunately, she blacked out as Nurse Joy and Togepi were watching from outside of the pool at the devastating Whirlpool. The three fighting brothers were watching as well, happy that maybe they didn't even have to implement their plan to stop Misty, because she was gonna fucking die. Sure enough, she was about to die, as enough water filled her lungs, and her last thoughts before she fully blacked out were her hopes that Ash and Brock could come and save her, remembering their time together as her life practically flashed before her eyes. Just before Misty actually blacks out, though, she's able to see her Horsey, who was seemingly pretty much unaffected by the Whirlpool because it was an expert swimmer, and was able to pull Misty up to the surface, but not before Misty did fully black out and have a full-on dream regarding Ash and Brock. The dream involved Brock and Ash congratulating Misty on becoming the Cerulean gym leader, and state their belief that she would be a good one permanently, and also state that she was so good with water Pokemon that she would be able to calm the Gyarados on her own. Misty expressed doubt that she would be able to do this on her own, and tried her best to swim over to them and yell out for their help, but Ash and Brock merely said goodbye as they disappeared. Misty was desperate not to be alone, as she pleaded Brock and Ash not to leave her, and unfortunately, she was then stopped right then and there because she couldn't go after them, since Gyarados appeared and grabbed onto her leg and foot with its tail and pulled her back, causing her to scream as she then woke up, as she had let out the scream in real life as well. As soon as she wakes up, she was instantly relieved to see that she was still alive, and that what had happened was just a dream. Well, at least regarding Ash and Brock. She then sees that Nurse Joy had brought her to the gym's lounge area on the couch to try and recover, and fortunately she had, as Nurse Joy helped the recovery by offering Misty a hot cup of tea, also serving as a relaxant, as Misty was very tense from what had just happened. Misty was definitely hesitant to go back and try and calm the Gyarados again after what had just happened, but Nurse Joy told her not to give up, and offered a new suggestion, being to merely wait for Gyarados to calm down on its own, but somehow separate Gyarados from the rest of the water Pokemon so that it could go crazy but not be a harm to any of them. Misty agreed to do this, and simply tried to recall Gyarados into its Pokeball to separate it from the other water Pokemon, even though Nurse Joy initially said it wouldn't work, and sure enough, she was right, as the Gyarados resisted the Pokeball's recapture ray, and simply avoided it by diving underwater, soaking Misty and Nurse Joy, and swatting the Pokeball away with its tail, and its strength in the process. Although Misty obviously didn't want to resort to physically trapping Gyarados, she had no other options, as she was forced to lower a cage from the ceiling somehow, and trap the Gyarados inside, as the Gyarados angrily tried to tackle itself out of the cage, but it couldn't, leaving Misty to feel bad for trapping it, but she knew that it was the only way. Gyarados then angrily growls, and tries to escape the cage using a hydro pump, But this doesn't work either, and the water from the hydro pump merely shoots through the bars of the cage and almost hits Misty, making Misty scared again, as she began to doubt if she could really be a water gym leader if she was scared of a water Pokemon. Just then, it was revealed that Kim, Kai, and Kale had broken into the Cerulean gym, and Kim quickly went to the gym's loudspeaker as he brought a microphone with him, and he hooked up the microphone and stood on the diving board so that Misty and Nurse Joy could see him. And Kim then declared that there would be a battle between the three Pokemon Fighting Brothers and Misty right now inside of the Cerulean Gym, and the winner of the battle would officially become the new Cerulean Gym leaders. So if Misty won, she would remain the gym leader, and if Kim, Kai, and Kale won, then they would become the gym leaders. The reasoning for using the loudspeaker was so that any passerby that was walking outside the gym would become intrigued by the prospect of watching a battle and rush inside, and sure enough, a lot of people did, forming an entire crowd watching inside the gym, making Misty panic, because she realized that she now couldn't deny the battle since the crowd was expecting it, not wanting to disappoint them. Upon seeing the crowd enter, the Fighting Brothers were immensely happy, as of course they wanted to spread their name across the world. That was their goal. So they introduced themselves as the Pokemon Fighting Brothers to the audience, doing their motto. Misty got annoyed by the Fighting Brothers' motto and questions why the fuck they wanted to be the gym leaders anyway, leading them to reveal that they wanted revenge on Misty for what she had done to them earlier. And Kale then hooked a camera up to a monitor of the gym by digitally syncing it up. So he then threw this camera down underwater into the aquarium so that the audience could see how Gyarados was captured inside of a cage, claiming that Misty couldn't control it, and claimed that Misty wasn't fit to be the Cerulean gym leader if she couldn't get a water Pokemon to obey her, or she wasn't able to control it. And also claimed that they would be able to tame the Gyarados for some reason, so they would be more fit for the gym. Misty stated that she could control the Gyarados, she just needed a bit more time once it was able to calm down in the cage. But Kim accused Misty of just trying to run away from the battle, being too scared to face them, since she would lose easily, and in front of an entire audience to boot. Also stating that there should be a rule that a gym leader can't be weak as fuck, and that they shouldn't be able to be a gym leader if they couldn't immediately calm any Pokemon of their type. Kim then instructs the audience to try and convince Misty to stop being a scared bitch and battle, as the crowd cheers for her to battle since they wanted to see a battle. And Misty, upon seeing this, not wanting to disappoint the audience, reluctantly decides to battle them, also wanting to prove them wrong that she was unfit to be the Cerulean gym leader. Nurse Joy then decided to be the referee of the match, which Misty agreed to, and the four boys, the fan club, had become alerted by the cheering crowd and knew that a battle was going on, and they decided to be the commentators, commentating to the audience. As Nurse Joy then announced that the battle would be between just Kim and Misty. A 3-on-3 battle with no time limit, although the battle would be over once a trainer won 2 battles. It was essentially best 2 out of 3. So if a trainer won 2 battles right away, then they wouldn't go into a third battle. So the battle then begins as Kim sends out his Hitmonchan and Misty sends out her Staryu. However, before either of the Pokemon could attack, Hitmonchan appeared to drown. So, although Misty was enemies with Kim, she obviously didn't want his Hitmonchan to drown, so she commanded Staryu to go over and save it. However, right as Staryu approached, Hitmonchan began floating up voluntarily, indicating that it wasn't drowning and was in control of its movements, revealing that Hitmonchan was just faking drowning to get Staryu to come close to it. So now, Hitmonchan used a Mach Punch on Staryu, knocking it out of the water and onto a rock near the surface, knocking Staryu out in a single hit, as Hitmonchan then jumps out of the water to the surface, happy about its supposed win. However, Misty was not happy, as she obviously accused Kim of cheating, leading Kim to counter that he was merely just doing everything in his power to win, even if he did have to go with some dirty tricks. However, Nurse Joy came to the same conclusion as Misty, that cheating was not okay, so therefore she declared that Misty had been unfairly defeated, so gave the round to Misty instead of Kim, declaring Hitmonchan's move illegal, shocking Kim. The crowd cheered for this decision, as they saw Kim as a cheater as well. Since the round was over, it was time for Misty to recall her Staryu, obviously because it was knocked out, but Kim also had to recall his Hitmonchan as well, since you had to use a different Pokemon for every round. The 4 fan club members then commentated, talking about what Pokemon they thought both trainers would send out next, as Togepi walked over to them and tried to take the microphone from one of the boys, waving its arms back and forth in a metronome-like fashion, although Metronome thankfully didn't do anything this time. The battle then begins as Misty sends out her Corsola, and Kim reveals that his second Pokemon was a Tentacruel, and he immediately orders it to go for Bubble Beam, which immensely hurts Corsola. However, Corsola was quickly able to get itself back to normal health as it used Recover. And then Misty sent Corsola to use Tackle on Tentacruel, but as Corsola was charging towards it, Kale and Kai began cheating as well, as they sent out 2 of their Tentacruel to make the battle 3 against 1. As the 2 Tentacruel that had just been sent out tackled Corsola themselves, knocking Corsola straight into a rock right by Gyarados' cage. Nurse Joy obviously calls all 3 of the brothers out for breaking the rules, leading Kale to counter that the 3 Pokemon Fighting Brothers didn't play by the rules, leading Kai and Kim to get mad at Kale, explaining that they wanted to try and actually come up with an excuse, so they shut Kale up and claimed that Misty accepted to have a battle with all 3 brothers, not just one of them, so what they were doing was completely fair. Nurse Joy rebutted that she had officially announced the battle as being only between Misty and Kim, but Kim just ignored Nurse Joy as he danced around, doing a variation of the Fighting Brothers motto. Misty then angers Kim as she taunts him that the reason why he needed his two brothers to help him was because he was too much of a pussy to battle alone. And Kim was so angry that he ordered his two brothers to help him out, as their three Tentacruel all used a poison sting at the same time on Corsola, knocking Corsola into the same rock that it had arrived at previously, meaning that Gyarados saw Corsola get slammed into the rock and began to get angry upon seeing this, it seemed like, in shock at how ruthless the Tentacruel were being to the Corsola. Misty saw how ruthless they were being as well, and didn't want her Corsola to fucking die, so she dove into the water to save it. Before Misty could save Corsola, though, it was already down. So Kim proudly declared that the match was now 1-1, thinking that he got a point for eliminating Corsola, stating that he was no chicken because he was so strong, and if anything, Misty was the chicken, since she had decided to dive in to save her Corsola. However, Nurse Joy rebuttals that Misty didn't cheat, since her Corsola was already down, and stated that, if anything, the three brothers were obviously the cheaters, since they had sent out 3 Pokemon to attack one, and disqualified them for their continued rule violations, making the Fighting Brothers angry, as they claimed that they had won fair and square, and proceeded to go on a fucking rampage, yelling and screaming, and this just pissed Nurse Joy off, to the point where she decided to ban them from all official Pokemon matches, as punishment for their rule violations, just making the brothers even more mad, as Misty managed to grab her defeated Corsola and bring it back up to the surface. The three brothers then got an idea to try and force Nurse Joy to reverse their official battle ban by attacking Gyarados, as they ordered their Tentacruel to all use Poison Sting on the Gyarados, essentially thinking that in order to save the Gyarados, Nurse Joy would reverse her ruling, which ended up hurting Gyarados pretty badly, and just ended up making Nurse Joy even more mad at the three brothers, as she demanded them to stop, leading the three brothers to state that they would only stop if their ban was lifted, and they were instantly given the win. Nurse Joy obviously denied them. So, the three brothers saw no reason to just not continue ordering their Tentacruel to use Poison Sting, hurting Gyarados even more. Upon seeing Gyarados get hurt, even though Misty wasn't fond of Gyarados, she just couldn't stand to see any water Pokemon be abused like that, so she dove back into the water to protect Gyarados, and even took all the incoming Poison Sting hits, even ones that Tentacruel was firing directly at her, making Gyarados immensely shocked, but also impressed by how far Misty was willing to go to protect it, and became even angrier, though not towards Misty, but just towards the Tentacruel, for the Tentacruel attacking Misty, as the Tentacruel had then proceeded to attack Misty directly, though not with Poison Sting, but with a tackle, tackling her right against Gyarados' cage, knocking the air out of her, meaning she was prevented from trying to swim back up to surface to recatch her breath, and began to experience yet another dream, very similar to the one from before with Ash and Brock. It was essentially the exact same dream, since she had now passed out and had begun floating down to the bottom of the pool, about to fucking drown, which just made the Gyarados even angrier, wanting to save Misty, as it started banging against the cage, trying to escape, so it could save Misty from drowning. As for the three Fighting Brothers, they were evil as fuck, and that meant that they were immensely enjoying watching Misty almost drown. However, when they saw Gyarados become even angrier, and actually managed to break open the cage, while the Fighting Brothers were not stressed out by the Gyarados, the rest of the audience was, as they knew how dangerous it could be, and immediately got scared, wondering what the fuck Gyarados was going to do, as suddenly Gyarados emerged to the surface with Misty, having grabbed her before she drowned. And Misty soon became conscious yet again, due to having all the water having left her lungs once she arrived back at the surface. Misty then thanked Gyarados for saving her with his huge-ass eyebrows, as that's where she was resting, and was very happy with the turn of events, while the Fighting Brothers now were not. Yeah, they had finally lost their confidence and all that shit. They were immensely bitchy, and ordered their Tentacruel to attack the Gyarados with Bind, Bubble Beam, and Hydro Pump respectively. Gyarados managed to dodge all of these attacks, though, by diving back into the water, with Misty still hanging on to its eyebrows. The Fighting Brothers were impressed by Gyarados' quick dodging, and reaffirmed their want to take Gyarados for themselves. However, Gyarados diving back into the water caused yet another huge wave, soaking all the Fighting Brothers, which pissed them off, as their amazement faded, and they instead ordered their Tentacruel to attack once again, with Kim ordering his Tentacruel to attack with a Bind yet again, but Gyarados simply used its tail to send that Tentacruel flying. So then Kai told his Tentacruel to use Bubble Beam on Gyarados, but Gyarados blocked with a Protect. The three Fighting Brothers then ordered all their Tentacruel to attack at the same time yet again, with Bind, Bubble Beam, and Water Gun, but Gyarados simply used a barrier to block these attacks. One of the Tentacruel then tried another Water Gun, but Misty told Gyarados to use a Hyper Beam, and it actually obliged, listening to her, as the Hyper Beam was enough to send the Tentacruel blasting off out of the roof of the gym, even though they weren't Team Rocket. Seeing all their Tentacruel now up in the sky, the three brothers panicked, especially when they saw Gyarados turn its attention towards them, having returned to the surface, with Misty of course still on its eyebrows. The Fighting Brothers claimed that they gave up and were gonna just, go away and run away, but Misty wouldn't let them, as she ordered Gyarados to use a Hydro Pump, which sent the three brothers blasting through the same roof with their Tentacruel. Hey, at least they were reunited. The audience then cheers at Gyarados' epic display of power, as Kim's Hitmonchan was also blown through the roof with a Hydro Pump. In the aftermath of all this, it seemed as though Misty had finally gotten over her fear of Gyarados more or less, as she happily thanked it, and Gyarados was happy with Misty's compliments, rubbing its face against her face, and Misty didn't pull away. So yes, Misty had gotten over her fear of Gyarados, and the Gyarados would now listen to her, as it had obeyed all of her orders to attack. So Misty took the opportunity to ask for it to return to its Pokeball once again, and it agreed, having already calmed down and not being a threat to the other water Pokemon anymore. Nurse Joy then came up to Misty and congratulated her on taming Gyarados and proving herself as a good gym leader who truly knew how to help Pokemon of her type specialty. And she also declared that because of the fact that Misty had now officially become the gym leader and had proven herself as a good one, and had proven that she was able to stop all of the Pokemon in the gym from being in danger, this meant that the Cerulean Gym and Misty had passed the gym inspection by the PIA. Misty was confused, wondering how Nurse Joy knew this, leading Nurse Joy to reveal that she was actually a member of the PIA, and that's why she had come to the gym, to inspect it. See, we finally got the answer why, because we knew why the boys came, but it never made sense why Nurse Joy was there, but now we knew. Misty was overjoyed to have proven herself, and thanked Nurse Joy as the crowd cheered, happy that the Cerulean Gym was safe as well. Joy then went outside the gym as Misty joined her, with Joy revealing that now that the Cerulean Gym had passed inspection, she had to move on to the Hoenn region to inspect their gyms. Misty knew that Ash had likely headed off to Hoenn, remembering his and Harrison's conversation, so told Nurse Joy that if she happened to see Ash in Hoenn, to tell him that she had officially become the Cerulean Gym leader, and that she was planning to use this opportunity, with her sisters being gone, to become an even better gym leader than them, and keep the Cerulean Gym in tip-top condition, perhaps even improving it. Nurse Joy assured Misty that if she saw Ash, then she would let him know of this, and then begins to set off for Hoenn, waving goodbye to Misty, as Misty waved back and thanked her for all her help. As Nurse Joy walked off, Misty remembered how Brock and Ash showed no surprise at the fact that Misty's sisters wanted her to completely run the gym, so she realized that Ash and Brock may have had faith in her to run the gym on her own the entire time, and hoped that Nurse Joy's message would get to Ash, as she really wanted Ash and Brock to be proud of her and know that she had accomplished what they thought she could. The episode then ends with Misty going back inside the gym as she puts on her bathing suit and dove in the pool, determined to start training with a whole bunch of the water Pokemon, so that she could make them even stronger, knowing that as the Cerulean Gym leader, she would be facing tougher opponents than she had ever faced before. Also, this meant that all those Cerulean Gym's water Pokemon were technically hers now, even Gyarados. I bet you she never expected that she would own Gyarados.